Earth in danger. The sun was setting on New York City, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. But Dr. Emily Chen wasn't looking at the pretty colors. Her eyes were glued to the computer screen in front of her. The numbers on it made her heart beat faster. "This can't be right," she whispered, pushing her glasses up her nose. Emily was part of a team watching for space dangers. And right now, those numbers were showing the biggest danger Earth had ever seen. She picked up her phone with shaky hands and called her boss, Dr. James Wilson. "James, you need to see this now," she said, her voice urgent. 20 minutes later, James burst into the lab. His usual neat hair was a mess, like he'd been running his hands through it. "Show me," he said, not even saying hello. Emily pointed at her screen. "Look at this cluster here," she said. "It's not just one asteroid. It's hundreds, maybe thousands." James leaned in, his eyes wide. "How did we miss this?" he muttered. "They were hiding behind Jupiter," Emily explained. "We only saw them when they changed course. And James, they're heading straight for us." James stood up straight, his face pale. "How long do we have?" Emily swallowed hard. 6 months. Maybe 7. James nodded slowly. "I need to call the president," he said, his voice hollow. As James left the room, Emily looked back at her screen. The cluster of dots looked so small and harmless, but each dot was a massive rock, big enough to cause huge damage. And there were so many of them. For the next week, the world's top scientists met in secret. They ran numbers, made plans, and argued a lot. But in the end, they all agreed on one thing: Earth's defenses weren't strong enough. Sure, they had some space guns and shields, but those were made to stop 1 or 2 asteroids, not thousands. Finally, it was time to tell the world. The U.S. president went on TV, her face serious. "My fellow Americans and citizens of the world," she began, "we face a threat unlike any in human history." As she explained about the asteroids, people around the world watched in shock. In Tokyo, a family huddled around their TV. In Lagos, people gathered in the streets, looking at the big screens. In Rio de Janeiro, a young couple held hands tightly as they listened. The president finished her speech with a call for unity. "We must work together," she said. "All countries, all people. This is not a time for fighting among ourselves. This is a time to fight for our very survival." For a few days, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then the panic started. In some places, people rushed to stores, buying all the food they could. In others, they tried to build underground bunkers. Some folks even tried to build spaceships in their backyards, hoping to escape Earth. But governments around the world were working hard. They started building more space guns. They made plans to send rockets to blow up the asteroids. Some even talked about moving people to underground cities. But deep down, everyone knew it wasn't enough. Earth needed help. Big help. That's when Aria Zhang spoke up. Aria was a young diplomat, only 28 years old. She worked at the United Nations and was known for thinking outside the box. At a big meeting of world leaders, Aria stood up. She was nervous, but her voice was strong. "We're not alone in this universe," she said. "We all know that. It's time we ask for help." The room got very quiet. Everyone knew what Aria was talking about. Years ago, humans had learned about the Galactic Council, a group of alien species that ruled most of the galaxy. But Earth had always stayed away, wanting to solve its own problems. "Are you suggesting we contact the Council?" one leader asked, sounding shocked. Aria nodded. "Yes, that's exactly what I'm suggesting." The room exploded with voices. Some leaders were angry, saying Earth should handle this alone. Others were scared, worried about what the aliens might do. A few thought it was a good idea, but weren't sure how to do it. For hours they argued. Aria stood her ground, answering questions and explaining her idea. Slowly, more and more leaders started to agree with her. Finally, the U.S. president stood up. Everyone got quiet again. "Miss Zhang," She said, "You've given us a lot to think about, but we need to make a decision fast. Every day we wait is a day lost." The president looked around the room. "I say we vote. Right now. Do we contact the Galactic Council or not?" One by one, the leaders voted. It was close, but in the end, the yes votes won. Arya felt a mix of relief and fear. They were going to do it. They were going to ask aliens for help. But would the aliens listen? The next day, scientists from all over the world gathered at a big radio telescope in Puerto Rico. This telescope was powerful enough to send a message far into space. Arya was there too. The leaders had chosen her to write the message. She had spent all night working on it, trying to find the right words to ask for help. As the scientists got the telescope ready, Arya looked at the paper in her hands. The fate of Earth might depend on these words. She hoped they were good enough. Finally, everything was ready. A scientist gave Arya a nod. With a deep breath, she started to read. "To the honorable members of the Galactic Council, we, the people of Earth, send you greetings. We have long known of your presence but have chosen to develop on our own. Now we face a threat that we cannot overcome alone. A massive swarm of asteroids approaches our world. Our defenses are not strong enough. We humbly ask for your aid in this, our darkest hour. The people of Earth await your response." Arya finished reading. The scientist pressed a button, and the message shot out into space at the speed of light. Now, all they could do was wait and hope. As Arya left the telescope, she looked up at the night sky. Somewhere out there, aliens would hear their cry for help. What would they say? Would they come to Earth's rescue, or would they leave humans to face this threat alone? The fate of the entire human race now rested on the answer to those questions. Arya shivered, not from the cold night air, but from the weight of what they had just done. The first step had been taken. Earth had broken its silence and reached out to the stars. Now, the real challenge was about to begin. The Council's dilemma. Far away in the galaxy, on a planet called Zephyria, something big was happening. The Galactic Council was meeting. This wasn't a normal meeting. They had just got a message from a planet called Earth. The council room was huge. It looked like a giant bowl with seats all around. In these seats sat aliens from all over the galaxy. They all looked different. Some had blue skin, some had tentacles, and some looked like talking trees. At the center of the room, a hologram appeared. It showed the message from Earth. Everyone watched as Arya's words played out in front of them. When it ended, the room exploded with noise. All the aliens started talking at once. Some sounded angry, some scared, and some excited. The head of the council, a tall alien named San, raised all four of his hands. "Quiet, please," he said. His voice boomed through the room. Everyone got quiet. "We have a big decision to make," Zahn said. "The humans have asked for our help. Should we give it?" A small green alien stood up. This was Zix, from a planet known for its smart people. "Why should we help them?" Zix asked. "Humans are primitive. They still fight wars. They hurt their own planet. They're not ready to join us." Many aliens nodded. They agreed with Zix. But then, another alien stood up. This one looked like a big, friendly bear. His name was Grok. "Wait," Grok said. "Don't we remember the Crixin incident?" The room got very quiet. Everyone knew about the Crixin incident. Grok continued. 50 Earth years ago, the Crixins tried to invade Earth. They thought it would be easy. But the humans surprised them. They fought back with things like, what were they called? Oh yes, Spitfires and bazookas. The Crixins had to run away. The aliens started whispering to each other. They remembered how shocked everyone had been when the Crixins lost. Another alien stood up. This one looked like a giant caterpillar. "And don't forget," she said, 10 Earth years ago, humans sent a small ship to the edge of their solar system. They called it Voyager. It had music and pictures on it. They wanted to say hello to the universe. That's kind of sweet, isn't it? More aliens nodded. Humans did some good things too. But Zix wasn't giving up. Sure, they did those things. But they also make movies about killing aliens. They think we're all scary monsters. This started another loud argument. Some aliens thought humans were too dangerous. Others thought they were interesting, and maybe even fun. As the fighting went on, one alien sat quietly, thinking hard. This was Xylo. Xylo was one of the oldest aliens in the galaxy. He looked a bit like a giant, wise turtle. Finally, Xylo stood up. Everyone got quiet. When Xylo spoke, people listened. Friends, Xylo said slowly, I think we're forgetting something important. Yes, humans can be scary. Yes, they make mistakes. But they're young. They're still learning. And now, they're in trouble. Big trouble. Xylo looked around the room. Imagine you're walking down a street. You see a young child about to be hit by a vehicle. Do you stop to think if the child is good or bad? No. You jump in and save them. That's what we should do here. The room was very quiet. Xylo's words made everyone think. But Zix wasn't done. It's not that simple, he said. If we help humans now, they'll want to join the council. Are we ready for that? Humans are unpredictable. They might cause problems. This started another big argument. Some aliens agreed with Zix. Humans might be trouble. But others thought like Xylo. Helping was the right thing to do. As the fighting went on, Son looked worried. He knew they needed to decide fast. Earth didn't have much time. Suddenly, a new alien stood up. This was Lyra. She looked like a shimmering cloud. I have an idea, she said. Why don't we test the humans? Everyone looked at Lyra. What do you mean? Son asked. We send them some help, Lyra explained. But not everything they need. We see what they do with it. If they use our help well, we send more. This way, we can see if they're ready to join us. The room got quiet again. Aliens looked at each other, nodding slowly. This idea made sense. Son smiled. I think Lyra has a good plan. Let's vote on it. The vote was close, but in the end, Lyra's plan won. The council would send some help to Earth, but not too much. They wanted to see what humans would do. As the meeting ended, Xylo walked up to Son. I hope we're doing the right thing, Xylo said. Son nodded. Me too, old friend. Me too. Far away on Earth, Aria was sitting in a small room. She hadn't slept much since sending the message. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw asteroids hitting Earth. Suddenly, a scientist burst into the room. Ms. Zhang, he shouted. We got a reply. Aria jumped up. Her heart was beating fast. What does it say? She asked. The scientist handed her a paper. Aria read it quickly. Then she read it again, slower this time. The message was short. To the people of Earth, we have heard your call. Help is coming. But know this. The main task is still yours. Show us what humans can do. The galaxy is watching. Aria felt happy and scared at the same time. Help was coming. But it sounded like it wouldn't be enough. Humans would have to work hard to save themselves. She looked out the window at the sky. Somewhere up there, aliens were getting ready to come to Earth. And a huge swarm of asteroids was still coming too. The real test for humanity was about to begin. Aria took a deep breath. It was time to get to work. As she left the room to tell the world leaders the news, Aria felt something she hadn't felt in a while. Hope. It wasn't much, but it was there. A small light in the darkness. The next few months would decide the fate of Earth. But now, at least they weren't facing the danger alone. Humanity's ingenuity unveiled. The world was buzzing with excitement and fear. Aliens were real, and they were coming to help. But their message was clear. Humans had to do most of the work themselves. In a big room in New York, world leaders were meeting again. Aria Zhang stood at the front, facing them all. "We can't just sit and wait for the aliens," she said. "We need to show them what humans can do." The room was quiet. Everyone knew she was right. But what could they do? Suddenly, a man stood up. It was Dr. James Wilson, the scientist who first saw the asteroids coming. "I have an idea," he said. "It's crazy, but it might work." Everyone leaned in to listen. James explained his plan. He wanted to use Earth's satellites as a big space shield. "We have thousands of satellites up there," he said. "If we move them just right, we can make a net to catch the smaller asteroids." Some people laughed. It did sound crazy, but others looked interested. "How would we move the satellites?" someone asked. James smiled. "That's where it gets fun," he said. He explained that they could use the satellites' small engines to move them. It would take careful math and teamwork, but it could be done. The room buzzed with excitement. This was the kind of thinking they needed. But James wasn't done. "We also need something for the big asteroids," he said. "I suggest we build the biggest lasers the world has ever seen." Now everyone was talking at once. "Lasers, like in the movies." James nodded. "Yes, like in the movies. But real. We put them all around the world. When a big asteroid comes close, we all fire at once. We can break it into smaller pieces that our satellite net can catch." The room was silent for a moment. Then someone started clapping. Soon, everyone was cheering. Arya smiled. This was humanity at its best. Creative, brave, and a little bit crazy. But one question remained. Who would pay for all this? That's when something amazing happened. Country after country stood up, offering money and resources. Even countries that usually fought were working together. As Arya watched, she felt proud. Humans might argue and fight, but when it really mattered, they could work as one. The next few months were the busiest in human history. All over the world, people were working day and night. In China, factories worked around the clock to build parts for the giant lasers. In Brazil, scientists figured out how to move the satellites without crashing them. In Kenya, a young computer whiz wrote a program to control it all. Even kids were helping. Schools had contests to design logos for the project. The winning design, a picture of Earth wrapped in a protective net of satellites, was soon everywhere. The whole world was working together like never before. Old enemies became friends. Rich countries shared with poor ones. Everyone knew that if Earth was going to survive, they all had to help. But not everything was going smoothly. Moving the satellites was harder than they thought. Some crashed into each other. Others went the wrong way. And building the lasers was taking too long. They were so big and complicated that even working day and night, they were falling behind schedule. Arya was worried. She knew the aliens were watching. What if humans couldn't do it? What if they failed? That's when she had an idea of her own. If James could think of using satellites as shields, maybe she could think of something too. She remembered learning about comets in school. Comets were like dirty snowballs in space. They were made of ice and rock. What if they could use comets to help? If they could find the right comets and move them into the right places, they could make a second line of defense. Excited, Arya called a meeting with the top scientists. At first, they looked at her like she was crazy. Move comets. That was even harder than moving satellites. But the more they talked about it, the more they liked the idea. Comets had their own gravity. If they could put them in the right spots, they could pull some asteroids off course. It would be incredibly hard. They would need to find the right comets, calculate their paths perfectly, and figure out how to move them. One small mistake could send a comet crashing into Earth instead of saving it. But it might just work. The scientists got to work right away. They called it Operation Snowball, which made everyone laugh. A little laughter was good. Things had been too serious for too long. As news of Operation Snowball spread, people got excited again. Moving comets sounded like science fiction, but so did talking to aliens. If they could do one impossible thing, maybe they could do another. All around the world, People looked up at the night sky with new eyes. Those little dots of light weren't just stars anymore. They were possible saviors, comets that might help save Earth. Kids made comet catchers out of hula hoops and tinfoil. Adults joked about playing pool with the solar system. It was scary, but it was also exciting. As the days passed, progress was made. The satellite net was slowly taking shape. The first of the giant lasers was almost ready for testing. And the scientists had found 3 comets that might work for Operation Snowball. But time was running out. The asteroids were getting closer every day. Everyone could feel the pressure. That's when they got another message from the aliens. It was short, like the first one. "We see your efforts. Impressive. Our ship will arrive in 1 Earth month. Be ready." The message spread quickly. Aliens were coming to Earth in just 1 month. Arya felt a mix of excitement and fear. 1 month wasn't much time. Would they be ready? Would the aliens be friendly? What would they think of humans? As she looked out her window at the busy streets below, Arya thought about how much had changed. Just a few months ago, she was a normal young woman with a normal job. Now she was helping to save the world. She thought about all the people working so hard. The scientists, the builders, the programmers, everyone doing their part. Then she thought about the aliens. What would they be like? Would they look strange? Would they be able to talk to humans? One thing was sure, when the aliens arrived, they would find a humanity united like never before. A humanity full of crazy ideas and the courage to try them. Arya smiled. Whatever happened next, humans had already proven something important. When it really mattered, they could do amazing things. The next month would be the most important in human history, but Arya felt ready. They all were. The greatest test of humanity was about to begin. The race against time. The clock was ticking. Aliens were coming in a month, and the asteroids were getting closer every day. Earth was buzzing like a giant beehive, everyone working as fast as they could. In Florida, the first giant laser was ready for testing. It was huge, as tall as a skyscraper. Scientists from all over the world had come to watch. Dr. Emily Chen, who had first spotted the asteroids, pressed the big red button. For a second, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like thunder, a bright blue beam shot into the sky. Everyone cheered. The laser worked. But would it be strong enough to break up the asteroids? To test it, they had sent up a special satellite. It wasn't much bigger than a car, but it was made of the same stuff as the asteroids. The laser had to hit it. Everyone held their breath as they watched the screens. The laser beam reached space and hit the satellite dead on. On the screen, they saw the satellite break into tiny pieces. The room exploded with joy. People were hugging and crying. The laser worked even better than they had hoped. But their happiness didn't last long. A message came from the satellite team in Brazil. They were having problems. Some satellites were crashing into each other as they tried to move them into the net formation. Arya flew to Brazil right away. When she got there, she found a room full of tired, frustrated scientists. "What's wrong?" she asked. The lead scientist, Dr. Carlos, looked like he hadn't slept in days. "The satellites keep bumping into each other," he said. "We move one, and it hits another. It's like trying to play chess with 1,000 pieces." Arya thought hard. They needed a solution, fast. Then she remembered something from her college days. "What about swarming?" she asked. Dr. Carlos looked confused. "Swarming? Like bees?" Arya nodded excitedly. "Yes. Bees and birds and fish all move in big groups without hitting each other. They follow simple rules. Can we make the satellites do that?" The room was quiet as everyone thought about it. Then, slowly, Dr. Carlos started to smile. That might work," he said. "We'd need to rewrite all the software, but..." He didn't finish. He was already running to his computer, calling for his team to join him. Arya smiled. She knew they'd figure it out. Meanwhile, in Russia, The Operation Snowball team was having its own problems. Moving comets was even harder than they thought. They had found the right comets, but making them go where they wanted was like trying to steer an ice cube the size of a mountain. The lead scientist, Dr. Ivanova, was ready to give up. "It's impossible," she told Aria over a video call. "We can't do it." But Aria wouldn't let her quit. "We have to try," she said. "What if we use the lasers to help? Could we use them to push the comets?" Dr. Ivanova's eyes went wide. "The lasers, but they're for the asteroids." "We can use them for both," Aria said. "We just need to be clever about it." That got Dr. Ivanova thinking. Soon, she was talking excitedly about angles and trajectories. Aria smiled as she ended the call. Another problem on its way to being solved. But not everything was going well. In Africa, where they were building more lasers, there was a big storm. It destroyed weeks of work. In Australia, a computer virus attacked the systems controlling the satellite net. And all over the world, people were getting scared and angry. Some people said the governments were lying about the aliens. Others said the asteroids weren't real. There were protests in big cities. Some people even tried to attack the laser sites. Aria was worried. They needed everyone to work together. If people started fighting now, all would be lost. She decided to make a speech. She asked all the TV and radio stations in the world to broadcast it. Standing in front of a camera, Aria took a deep breath. "People of Earth," she began, "I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But we can't let fear divide us. Look at what we've done already. We've built lasers that can hit targets in space. We're moving satellites to make a shield around our planet. We're even trying to move comets." She paused, looking straight into the camera. "Aliens are coming to meet us for the first time. What do we want them to see? A planet torn apart by fear, or a planet united, facing a threat together? We are one people, one planet. This is our moment to prove it." As Aria's speech went out across the world, something amazing happened. People stopped protesting. Instead, they started helping. In Africa, thousands of people came to help rebuild the laser site. In Australia, computer experts worked day and night to fix the virus. All over the world, people found ways to help. Kids had bake sales to raise money. Retired engineers came back to work. Even prisoners asked how they could help. The whole world was working together like never before. And then, 2 weeks before the aliens were supposed to arrive, they got some bad news. The asteroids were moving faster than they thought. They would arrive at the same time as the aliens. Everyone worked even harder. The satellite net was almost complete. The lasers were all built and ready. Operation Snowball had managed to move 2 comets into position, with the third on its way. But would it be enough? The day before the aliens were supposed to arrive, Aria couldn't sleep. She went up to the roof of her building to look at the stars. Somewhere up there were the asteroids that could destroy everything, but also the aliens who might help save them. As she watched, she saw a streak of light across the sky. A shooting star. She closed her eyes and made a wish, just like she did when she was a little girl. "Please," she whispered, "let us be enough." The next morning, Aria was at the big control center they had built. Screens covered the walls, showing views from space telescopes and data from all their defenses. Everyone was quiet, watching and waiting. They knew that today, humanity would face its greatest test. Suddenly, all the alarms started ringing at once. On the big screen, they saw it. A huge ship, unlike anything they had ever seen. The aliens had arrived. But behind the alien ship, they could see something else. A cloud of rocks, some as small as cars, others as big as mountains. The asteroids were here too. Aria took a deep breath. This was it. Everything they had done, everything they had built, was about to be put to the test. She looked around the room at the faces of the people she had worked with for so long. They were scared, but they were ready. Aria nodded to Dr. Wilson. He understood. With a steady hand, he reached out and pressed the button that would activate all of Earth's defenses. The greatest battle in human history was about to begin. Triumph of the human spirit. The control room was silent. Everyone held their breath as they watched the screens. The alien ship hung in space, huge and strange. Behind it, the swarm of asteroids looked like an angry cloud. Aria's heart was beating fast. This was the moment of truth. Would their defenses work? Dr. Wilson's finger pressed the button. For a second, nothing happened. Then, all at once, Earth came alive. All around the planet, giant lasers shot blue beams into the sky. The satellite net lit up, each satellite glowing as it powered on. And far out in space, two comets began to move, pulled by the gravity engines humans had attached to them. On the screens, they watched as the first asteroids hit the satellite net. The net flexed but held. Smaller rocks broke apart, but bigger ones were coming. The lasers fired again and again. Each blast turned a big asteroid into smaller pieces. But there were so many. Could they stop them all? Suddenly, a voice came from the speakers. It wasn't human. "People of Earth," the voice said. It sounded strange, but they could understand it. "This is Commander Zorn of the Galactic Council ship, Starblazer. We are here to help." Everyone cheered. The aliens were going to help. But Commander Zorn wasn't finished. "We see you have built impressive defenses. We will add our strength to yours. Together, we will face this threat." On the screens, they saw the alien ship move. It was heading straight for the asteroid swarm. Then, beams of light shot out from the ship. They were much stronger than Earth's lasers. Each beam destroyed a huge asteroid completely. Aria felt hope rising in her chest. With the aliens' help, they might just win this. But the fight was far from over. A big asteroid slipped past the lasers. It was heading straight for the satellite net. If it hit, it could break a huge hole in their defenses. That's when they saw it. One of the comets from Operation Snowball was moving. It was on a path to hit the asteroid. Dr. Ivanova had done it. She had moved the comet into just the right place. Everyone watched, holding their breath. The comet and the asteroid got closer and closer. Then, boom! They crashed into each other. Both broke into small pieces that burnt up in Earth's atmosphere. The room exploded with cheers. Operation Snowball had worked. But they couldn't celebrate yet. More asteroids were coming. The lasers fired nonstop. The satellite net was taking heavy damage. And the alien ship was moving fast, blasting asteroids left and right. For hours, the battle raged on. Sometimes it looked like they were winning. Other times, it seemed hopeless. Aria's nails were bitten down to nothing. Dr. Wilson's hair had turned completely white. Then, something unexpected happened. The third comet from Operation Snowball, the one they thought was too far away to help, came zooming in. It crashed into the biggest asteroid, breaking it apart before the lasers even touched it. This was the turning point. After that, the tide of the battle changed. More and more asteroids were destroyed. The swarm was getting smaller. Finally, after what felt like days but was really only 12 hours, it was over. The last asteroid was blasted into dust by an alien beam. Earth was safe. The control room was quiet for a moment. Then someone started to laugh. Soon, everyone was laughing and crying and hugging each other. They had done it. They had saved Earth. Aria felt tears running down her face. She looked at the screens, at the beautiful view of Earth from space. It looked so peaceful now. It was hard to believe they had just fought a huge space battle. Then Commander Zorn's voice came again. "People of Earth, you have fought bravely. Your defenses were crucial in this victory. The Galactic Council will be most impressed." Aria smiled. They had done more than save Earth. They had shown the galaxy what humans could do. The next few days were a blur of excitement. The alien ship landed, and for the first time, humans met beings from another world face to face. Commander Zorn looked a bit like a tall blue giraffe, but he was friendly and spoke kindly. He told them that the Galactic Council had been watching Earth for a long time. They had seen humans fight wars and hurt their planet, but they had also seen humans create beautiful art, make amazing discoveries, and now work together to save their world. "You have passed the test," Zorn said. "The Galactic Council invites Earth to join as a full member." The news spread around the world. Humans were going to join a galactic community. There would be so much to learn, so many new friends to make. But Earth had also earned respect. Their clever use of satellites, lasers, and even comets had impressed the aliens. Commander Zorn said that other planets wanted to learn from Earth now. As for Aria, she was hailed as a hero. People said her quick thinking and inspiring leadership had helped save the world. The United Nations asked her to be Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council. At first, Aria wasn't sure. It was a big job. But then she thought about everything they had been through. How humans had come together, worked hard, and done the impossible. She knew she wanted to show the rest of the galaxy what humans could do. So, on a bright summer day, Aria Zhang stepped onto the alien ship. She was going to represent Earth in the stars. As the ship took off, she looked down at her home planet. It looked so small from up here, so fragile. But she knew how strong it really was. Humans had faced their greatest challenge and won. They had shown that when they worked together, nothing was impossible. Now they were taking their first steps into a bigger universe. Aria smiled. Whatever adventures waited out there in the stars, she knew one thing for sure. Humanity was ready. They had proven they could face any challenge. They had shown the true triumph of the human spirit. As the ship jumped to light speed, Aria felt excited. This wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. Humanity's greatest adventure was about to start, and she couldn't wait to see what would happen next.